In today's video, we're going to talk about why we have an identity crisis, especially when we've grown up in a dysfunctional family home, and why this can feel so confusing. If this is something that interests you, then please stay tuned to find out more. Now, when we're talking about somebody who has grown up in a dysfunctional family, we mean someone who has had one or both parents who have either had a personality disorder, a severe mental illness basically, who was unable to meet that child's needs. So if somebody grows up in a family home where they have to put the parents' needs first, where they have to look after their younger siblings, where they have to take on too many adult roles at a young age, this can cause trauma and it can cause a lot of problems in relationships when this child becomes an adult. Now, an identity crisis can happen when that child has reached adulthood because the strategies that once kept that adult safe no longer fit the person that they are becoming. And this is probably because they are growing, because they've put their effort into healing themselves from the family dynamics, the dysfunctional family dynamics more specifically. And for this reason, the identity, who they are, starts changing. Now, an identity crisis often emerges when the strategies that once kept you safe when you were a child no longer align with the person that you are becoming. And this usually means that you are healing, that you are growing, that you are changing the way that you have dealt with relationships or how you deal with triggers. And all of this is very, very important in understanding why your identity feels like it's in crisis. Now, it's important to realize that in most dysfunctional family homes, a child is usually in survival mode, and their identity is shaped around trying to cope, trying to adapt, and also trying to protect themselves. And when things finally stabilize, so when this child is an adult, moves away from home, starts having relationships and a job, and feels more independent, these patterns can start to feel tight. They can start feeling a bit outdated or even false. If this adult is in therapy and is healing, this will be even more the case, because as we heal, our old coping strategies start shifting, they start changing. And this, of course, creates the question, if I am not that version of me anymore, well, who am I? Who is the new me without all of these coping mechanisms, without all of this people-pleasing? Am I a good person? Am I highly empathetic? Or was I just taught to constantly attune to other people's needs as a child, but I'm not actually really that empathetic after all? These are all very valid questions to have when you start questioning your identity. And through my experience, in most cases, when we're no longer in survival mode, this also means that the ways that we once coped don't really align anymore to the way that we need to cope with things in life right now. So if we think about ourselves in survival mode, we would have always had this question: what do I need to do in order to get through this? Whereas when we become more authentically ourselves, who am I when I'm not just coping? And this shift from survival of what do I need to get through this to who am I when I'm not coping can feel quite uncomfortable at first, because you suddenly don't have any certainty anymore. And you need to gain clarity in order to understand who this new person is that you are becoming. Now, when we talk about narcissistic abuse and the identity crisis that we may experience because of this, it can be really quite intense, because we are essentially leaving a dynamic where our sense of self was shaped by somebody else's needs around us, in this case our parents' needs. And the coping version of us no longer fits really, because our authentic self starts wanting to take over more. But it's not quite sure how to get there yet, because it was never really given the space to fully develop. So when we start our healing journey, this is where we start slowly developing this authentic side of ourselves, where we start asking ourselves more questions, like, what do I actually like? What do I enjoy? What makes me happy? These are all very important questions for someone who has been in a dysfunctional family dynamic. And another very important point that's worth making is that when we are having an identity crisis, a lot of different things may come up for us. We may feel confused, but this confusion is often very much linked to the grief of lost time, the grief for not having ever had the opportunity to express ourselves in a very honest and authentic way. There may be a lot of anger tied to this because we were very much controlled or invalidated all the time. And we may feel a lot of uncertainty as well about who we genuinely are. And that is all very, very normal under the circumstances. It's important to understand that when we were involved in narcissistically abusive dynamics, our feelings were constantly invalidated or minimized. We will have adapted by learning to people please in order to gain love. We would have a lot of self-doubt, or we would have had a lot of hyper-awareness of the other person's needs. We will have learned to be very hyper-vigilant, and we would have learned to suppress our true emotions. So over time, your identity becomes externally defined. We don't actually know who we are when we're not needed by others. So we may feel comfortable feeling needed, but actually, is that really who we are? If we were to strip away that side of us that feels needed, would we be comfortable sitting in that silence? Would we be comfortable just not doing that? Probably not, because it's what we've learned. So to unlearn that can take time, and it will be uncomfortable. And you may feel resistance towards changing this, again, because it's uncomfortable and unfamiliar. And of course, this is why the identity crisis you may be feeling is really intense, because your adapted self no longer feels right, no longer feels safe. And at the same time, your own preferences, your own voice, your own needs may not be that clear yet. So you're sort of in this limbo state, in this in-between state of trying to figure out who you are. And you're still not quite there yet because you are slowly peeling away the layers of who you may be. And it's a process that takes time. So a lot of journaling can help, a lot of therapy or coaching can help. Any sort of self-development, reading books can help. All of these things are essential when you are trying to heal from dysfunctional family dynamics. I will leave you with one last thing. When you are having an identity crisis, it may be because you are starting to realize that the version of yourself that has existed up until now was never actually fully yours. Up until now, you weren't who you could have been. So now is your chance to discover who you were always meant to be. So if you are on this healing journey and you are understanding a lot more of why you struggle with certain things, why you people please, why you struggle with self-worth, and if you are at a point in your life where you are having an identity crisis, then please feel free to share your experience in the comments below. And also, please don't forget, I am running online support groups for adult children of dysfunctional families of narcissistic parents. So if you would like to join, please do. It's every other Saturday, and it costs €40 per 2 90-minute sessions per month. It's a lovely group of people who are finding a lot of support in sharing what they are going through amongst each other. You will only heal in relationships with others. It's important to surround yourself with others who get it, with others who have been on a similar journey, so you can feel less isolated, because it can feel very, very isolating when you are healing from this sort of family dynamic. I also offer one-to-one coaching as well as one-to-one art therapy sessions for those of you with trauma who would like to explore a slightly different way of healing Art therapy can uncover parts of us that we cannot talk about. It can be better than talking. Sometimes we can't find the right words for our feelings. Sometimes our feelings are not ready to be expressed yet verbally, but they may be expressed in a creative way, and it may surprise us. So for those of you who struggle to verbalize your emotions, to name your emotions, art therapy is a great way because color and symbol are extremely powerful and they can tell us a lot. They can give us a lot of information. That is the end of today's video, everyone. Thank you so much for listening and for watching, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Take care. Bye-bye.